Good morning, everyone. I hope you are well. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Malka Bas Lev Witkuk, as well as Leah Bas Bible, Tzivir Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shlom ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Berech, Zipporah Feigal Bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Elili, Bena Bas Bible, from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Sarah Malka Bas Ben Yomin, and Yirmiyahu Yechiel ben Achave Moshe Eliezer. Good morning, and one and all. I hope that you had an opportunity. Sorry, let me just take off the ticker. I hope you had the opportunity to watch last night the fascinating interview with the Minister for Interior, the Minister for Aliyah and Integration, Minister Penina. Fascinating interview with her, a lady that clearly is on a meteoric rise to greatness, and who knows, maybe the next Golda Meir. If you haven't seen it, well worth watching. 25 minutes or something like that. We carry on. Please God, there'll be more things like that in the pipeline. Anyways, we were discussing yesterday, and I think the previous day, about the concept of shame. Okay, we're discussing about the concept of shame, and we said that, like everything in life, it has to be used in modicum, in moderation. Okay, and therefore there are pros and cons to shame. Okay, on the one hand, we said the advantage of shame is that it enables a person to feel regret for their past misdeeds. They don't carry on going through life being arrogant, denying the reality that's around them, papering over the cracks in their lives. But the flip side is that if a person is wallowing in self-pity as a result of shame, it can lead to a person feeling depressed and mental health issues, and be in a state of paralysis, and therefore it would be bad. We discussed previously also about the different levels of the different types of shame. I believe the 4 levels of shame. Yeah, and we said that the same way that ultimately what we are trying to achieve is the same way that we feel shame in terms of when somebody else, right, that we respect, that we admire, that we want to have a good impression with, when we see that they are in our presence, we wouldn't behave in a certain way. We always put our best foot forward. We always make sure that we give the right persona off. So it is that even behind closed doors, in the privacy, in our inner sanctum, as it were. So we have to make sure that at all times God is with us, God is watching us, and therefore really everything is just between him and us, and therefore we have to feel shame if we were to behave in an inappropriate way, to let ourselves down. So one of the things, the areas I think that we struggle with, and he discusses it in broad terms. Bear with me 1 second. Apologies. One of the areas that we seem to struggle with, and that is the fact that we feel shame sometimes where it's inappropriate. I'll give you an example. When it comes to doing a mitzvah, right? Do we feel shame? So I think that we do. If we are honest with ourselves, I think we do feel rather self-conscious when it comes to performing mitzvot in the public eye, right? We are, we're brought up being, it's an English thing in particular, I have to say, and we are very much, trying to fit in with all those around us, not wanting to make waves, not wanting to stand out from the crowd, and therefore, everything is done in a very understated way, right? We're proud to be Jewish, but on the other hand, we don't need to, rub it in people's faces, and therefore public displays on mitzvot is something that I think many people feel ashamed about. Okay, I don't know if you agree, but I know that on several instances, for example, public lighting of the menorah, putting up an eruv, there have been voices of dissent and complaints, and and that has come not so much from the non-Jewish community, but from our own flock. People are afraid, ashamed, and that. So shame is not a good thing when it comes to mitzvah performance. Okay, mitzvah performance is something that we should be very much full of pride, right? That's a place to use pride, and to be comfortable in our own skins and in who we are, right? I remember praying. I think it was in an airport. I found a corner, right? I found a corner to pray in, and obviously, I'm putting on tefillin. Done it many times in the airport and in other interesting places, hospitals and other places. I remember feeling rather self-conscious. I didn't have an issue with it, but I still didn't want to stick out. So the question is, so then all of a sudden, this Muslim gentleman turns up. He takes his mat, rolls it out, right? He doesn't next to me, and he's quite happy to prostrate himself and to do all and to pray quite openly. And I think that a British Jew does feel shame. If you want to call it embarrassment, Estelle, call it embarrassment. But why would we be embarrassed? Shame and embarrassment are two of the partners, twins. They're two halves of the whole when it comes to that family. I don't understand, why would you feel embarrassed, right? You only feel embarrassment or shame when you're doing something wrong, right? We have to be apologetic about who we are. Something to think about. We carry on, okay? So we have to be very careful. He goes on to say, and this is a very, very very important overarching concept, and that is not to embarrass, for shame others, right? For shame another person in public is one of the most serious transgressions a person can commit. And he quotes the famous section of the Talmud, the oral tradition, from Bava Metzia 59a. One who whitens his friend's face, i.e., he puts him to shame in public, has no share in the world to come. And he goes on to explain. So, Hamalvin Panei Chaver Barabin, somebody who embarrasses somebody in public, has no place in the world to come. Now, what is it that is so bad? I think Michael also concurs with me, having traveled as you have, Michael. I know I've been in South Africa. Outdoor kid, an outdoor bracha, was not a question. A kiddush outdoors. America, Toronto, I've been to. It is a different psyche to, as they used to say, to be a Jew at home and an Englishman on the streets, right? So, what is it about about publicly shaming somebody? It's the whitening of the face is the dust. It's a subtle form of murder. Why is it considered murder? Because he says, and this is a well-known thing, that the red blood leaves the face and the white pallor follows. In other words, when we humiliate somebody in public, the color literally is drained from their face. We see it with our own eyes. They change color. They go red, then they go white, as all the color, the life force saps from them. So we have literally killed them, right? Literally, they're dying on the spot, right? And therefore, if you have, as it were, taken life from them, then you, as it were, forego, or you have the consequences is that you forfeit your place or a special place in the world to come. So let's move on from that. And in fact, we find this. I was thinking that when Yosef HaTzadik, Joseph, when he, after all the years, over 20 years, he's been separated from his brother and they wronged him, right? For whatever their motives, they did the wrong thing, okay, didn't they? They sold him into slavery, believing that he was out to get them. What happened next? He reunited with them. What does he say? He identifies himself. Ani Yosef, I am Joseph. But what happens next? Yosef does not go into the details. He says, I am. How do you identify himself? I'm Yosef, who you sold into slavery. He has to reproof them, but he clears the room. Nobody else is there but his brothers and him. And he said it in a minimalistic way. He doesn't go into the gory details. He doesn't need to. So he's always trying to spare his brothers' blushes. That is the way that we are expected to be. So on the one hand, is shame good or bad? Michael, Estelle, Caroline, Carol, it's something which depends. It has its place, its benefits in terms of reforming us, rehabilitating us so that we don't live in the past. We don't get stuck making the same mistakes time and again. Okay? That we should have that remorse and that contrition and that regret on the one hand. On the other, to destroy somebody, right, for shaming them in public, or to feel shame in terms of our personal performance and acting as Jews, is also something that's reprehensible. I want to share with you a very personal story. I wasn't going to say it because to this day, I still feel shame. We're talking about over 30, 35 years later. Okay, you can work out. I was a very young boy. I think I was 6 or 7. And I remember clearly, I remember it because the moments of shame, I remember it like it just happened. Okay, so I'm going to show you a very personal thing. So there's a parade of shops, Cannon's Corner it's called in Stanmore, and they used to have Steve's Deli there, and they had a news agent called Martin Muckle. Okay, and I remember as a young kid, my mother took me into the shop, and she needed to buy something. I think there was a post office at the back. She'd gone to the post office at the back, and I was left. And I remember asking her if there was a stationery section, and there was a rubber and a razor. Okay, and remember the Mr. Men? So I love the Mr. Men, and there was a Mr. Men rubber. And I asked my mother, "Can I have this, please?" And she said no, for whatever reason. Okay, and to cut a long story short, I put it in my pocket, and I walked out the store. And I went home. Okay, and I remember that my mother sometime later saw me with it, and she says, "Where did you get that from?" And I said, and I had to, of course, spill the beans. And I said, I'm so sorry. She says, no, you don't have to apologize to me. We're going straight back. And I said, no, anything but going back. And of course, it was the best thing that she possibly could have done. So she took me back, marched me back to the shop, took me into McCall's, and I had to present this rubber, okay, and give it back, okay. Now that was the most powerful, insightful lesson that my mother could have taught me, because it didn't just teach me about that particular action. It was something that stayed with me throughout my life and will stay with me. The shame that I felt, the embarrassment, the sense of humiliation, the regret, the remorse that I had in that moment, recognizing my mistakes, recognizing how short-sighted I had been when I decided to do that. That gave me the resolve to be straight, honest, and to try to do the right thing, because I never wanted to go back to feeling that shame. And of course, I'm not saying that, of course, there's millions of mistakes that I've made, we've all made since. But I think that was one of the moments of shame, the greatest moments of shame that I ever felt. And I think it motivates me to this day, because I recall it. It's on my consciousness. It's indelibly engraved to make sure that I don't repeat those mistakes. And therefore, I'm more careful and more thoughtful. Doesn't mean we don't make mistakes, but hopefully we improve and we learn from our past. So that's the final lesson of shame, an insight that takes me back to my childhood. I was just remembering it before. We're going to carry on, as we always do, with Psalm 23 as we pray for all those that are unwell. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zacho Es Nishmois Lebas Bible Sivbas Mordechai Avram ben David Slavin Shalom ben Yisrael Morris Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Beres Separafei Lebas Reuven Baruch Shalom ben Elieli ben Lebas Bible from Moshe Shana Bas Yaakov Shmuel Yom Yechia ben Achav Moshe Eliezer Saramaka Bas Ben Yomin and Malka Bas Lev Witkub Shalkul Yolamam Begad Eiden Tev Menuchasam Lachem Velerachamim Yasvim Yisai Sakanafav Yolamim ויצוב זכי נשמתם אדוני נחלסם, וינוחו בשלום המשכבם ונאמר Amen. Wish long life to all those that are or would be saying Kaddish, and now Refuah Shlema. Misha Berach, Avasain Robbins, Rabiako Moshe, and David Shlomo Yivarech Rapesa Chaylim, Babu Chanam Ispalim, Babu Rom, is Chazakar Sporchu Yimalerachim Lehem, Lachmalafosam, Bishlachnim, Fushlim, and Shmaim Lecholim, Meso, Shachalisa, Rufus and Efshfusakov, Hashtabax Magrib and Amar, Amen. Wish everyone well. Tomorrow, same time. Reminder, tomorrow night we have the burst of inspiration on the Torah portion, insights into the weekly Parsha with modern day applications. Also, there is, I think, at 7:30 with a learning session from across the United Synagogue. US TV will have it live streamed, and that is in honor for Refuah Shlema for Rabbi Lord Sachs. So that's an event which I'm sure will attract thousands. Tomorrow, I think it's at 7:30. Details are on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else, and on the US TV. Take care. Have a great day. Look forward to seeing you soon. Keep well.